G'day watchers, welcome back to the channel and to today's review where I am featuring a piece from no less than the House of Omega. Thank you very much to Graham, local friend and watch enthusiast, who has made this available once again, a piece from his remarkable collection. So without further ado, let's open this and see what we have in here. So you haven't seen it before. This is a typical cover of an Omega box, right? White. With silver printing there for the symbol and the name of the company. So I'm just going to put that aside. And then inside, what you have is the inner box, which is previously red leather. So this is the previous style of box that was in use. And it's red leather with an inlay there with the symbol of Omega on the background. So pretty nice solid inlay there. So apart from the inside box, you're going to have this foam inlay and then a separate compartment for the warranty and instructions. So let's just have a quick look at this. All right, so you have the international warranty, chronometer, cost certificate. Out of respect to Graham, I'm not going to pull those out and reveal the details, particularly the serial numbers. But I can show this. This is the pictograms. If you haven't seen Omega pictograms before, you're going to get the reference. So, yep, I'm giving that away a little bit. 2200 50.00 is the reference of the watch in there with a 2500 Omega caliber. So just going through this quickly, you got automatic, rotor self-winding, sapphire crystal with that symbol, manual wind option, helium escape valve, right? That kind of gives it away as to what the watch is. Co-Axial escapement, double anti-reflective coating, so both inner and outer. This one 60 bar water resistant, and cost certification, meaning a chronometer, and at the bottom here 3-year international warranty. Okay, so that's the pictograms related to this watch. All right, just going to put that one away now. And then I'll just quickly show you the instruction manual as well if you haven't seen what this kind of looks like. You can easily get a PDF of this anytime, so I'll put a link in for those who are interested. So multi-language, you can see there for those markings, and the English section really is the first 50 or so pages. But interestingly, I just want to show that it contains multi-calibers, in this manual, as you can see on this fold out here. And if we go into the contents, you will see that it pretty much contains all the conventional available calibers. You're not going to get the kind of the one-offs, the tourbillons that they sometimes do, but all the conventionally available ones are in this manual at the time that the watch comes out, whenever you get your Omega watch. And then interestingly as well, out of useful reference, is the final pages, which actually shows you all the different pictograms that you might see in Omega certificates. Okay, so that's the instruction manual. I'm just going to put that aside as well, and then put this box away, and let's look at the inner box, which really is the typical red. The current ones, current versions are coming out in a timber wood box, I believe. I wish I could get my hands on one of those to show on the channel. Maybe I will one day, but this is the traditional box that they have used for many years. And yep, there it is. That's the piece for today. It is a Planet Ocean. So I'm just going to put that box aside now. All right, and that is a big piece, isn't it? So what we have here is the Omega Seamaster Planet Ocean 600 meter Co-Axial in big size. So this is the largest size that you can get. The caliber you've seen already is 2500 inside, and the serial number or the model number for this watch is 2200.50.00. The retail originally, I'm not sure, because it is no longer produced actively by Omega, but you can still get this in grey market for around the 4,000 USD mark, or maybe slightly higher, maybe slightly lower sometimes as well. I believe Planet Oceans were introduced around 2005. Some sources say slightly earlier, but it was around 2005, and this particular model is the model featured initially in Casino Royale. It was on Daniel Craig's wrist on that show. Now, that particular reference used in the movie was slightly different because they had it on a rubber strap, so they have a different reference, but the case is identical to this one, okay? Right, so Omega Caliber 2500 is based on ETA 2892-A2. You may have seen me talked about that already on my original Seamaster 300M review, which I did way back. I think that was the end of last year, in fact. So this caliber 2892 has been modified with coaxial escapement, meaning that it is more efficient in the architecture, which gives it a 48 power reserve, more than the typical 2892 power reserve of around 40 hours. 27 joules in here, and beating at 200 beats per hour. So a little bit of an unconventional thing. They I believe, slowed it down from the 28800 to make it easier to maintain and to keep up, because 28800 seemed to be pushing the escapement to its limits. That's what I understand in my readings. Early on in coaxial movements from Omega, they had early teething problems, which led them to settle on the 25200 speed. So it does have hacking, it does have manual winding option, and a quick set date implemented on the black disc at the 3 o'clock typical position. There you can see it is a cross chronometer, as you can see, indicated by the word chronometer just above the 6 o'clock position on this dial here. Coaxial, 600 meter water resistant, given that, you know, that beautiful, really gorgeous case backs that Omega implements, you know, with that Seamaster, that kind of a seahorse type of a creature, and the Omega symbol down the bottom there, with that, you know, solid screw-in crown, giving you their 600 meter water resistance. Okay, so this case, you've seen it in my hand here. It is large. It is 45.5 millimeters across in 316L steel. It is 15 millimeters on the thickness, so pretty sizable. Appropriate 22 millimeter lugs, I think, in this case, and a lug-to-lug length which is pretty substantial, 51.5 millimeters lug-to-lug distance there. It is a predominantly brushed case, but it does have this polish knurled surface on the side here. This is the main polished surface, which is really, you know, quite an elegantly executed feature in the Seamaster, similar to my Seamaster 300 meter, I have to say. Okay, screw-in case back and sign crown you've already seen. All right, just to point out the crown again. All right, there's the Omega sign there. And on the other side, you've noticed already, as well as on the pictogram, there is a helium escape valve, you know, so that interesting, mainly a talking point feature, you know. I think unless you go to saturation diving depths, you're really not going to be using that. Certainly, I don't foresee myself ever, you know, really using that for this, for a watch like this. Now the dial, you know, you can appreciate it already as I've panned the watch around, is in a pretty, you know, pretty nice, absolutely matte black. There is very little reflectivity in there, and I think it plays well into the function of the watch in terms of visibility, legibility. Right, the markers are all applied with steel and filled with Super-Luminova, as well as the Omega logo just under the 12 o'clock marker there. But, you know, the rest of it does appear to be printed, you know, the Omega Seamaster professional wording, as well as the wording above the 6 o'clock position there. That all appears to be printed to me. Now, the Super-Luminova is interesting. Of course, it performs well, right? It performs fantastically at night, just like I would expect. But if you look at the markers, there is no 12 o'clock distinction. So, you know, I think you can obviously tell it by the feel of it on your wrist, but without that, you could actually, you know, rotate it around and not really know which way up is the watch, you know, on the loom shot that I showed on this video. Right, and the other thing to note is that, putting up the loom shot here, the arrowheads, right, are kind of like broken arrows. Now, the hour hand is pretty close together if you look at the arrowhead to the body or shaft of the arrow, but the minute hand, right, there's a bit of a separation there of about at least 3 millimeters, and in the dark, that can be slightly unsettling. Now, I haven't had any difficulty telling the time in the dark, but I think if you're seeing that floating little triangle there, it can be slightly unsettling at first when you're trying to work out what exactly that is. So, that's just a little thing that I've noted when I'm using this. The crystal, of course, is sapphire, right? It's domed, nicely domed, and it's got the anti-reflective on inside and outside. The bezel, I have to say, is one of the best that I have felt. This is really nice. 120 click unidirectional, of course. It is a metal insert rather than ceramic in this version, which is back from 2005, not like the modern ceramic versions. Right, going on to the bracelet, 3 linked brush metal on the top, transitioning to polished on the sides. Unfortunately, back in the day, right, it's push pins. They didn't get round to implementing screw pins for the changing of the links yet, right? So that's something that's a bit limited in this kind of 10-12-year-old Omegas. Currently, of course, they've moved on to screw links. There is a solid classic Seamaster class with dive extension, which is very nicely implemented, and then all solid construction there with a push button release. And then on the surface you can see Omega, Seamaster, Professional, Planet Ocean. The current ones I think are more limited. In fact, I think my Seamaster really just had Omega as a branding without Seamaster, but back in the day this is what they used to implement. Okay, so that's the description of the watch there, right? What have I found about this watch? Well, it is super legible. It is just, I think it just pops. It's the most legible watch I think that I've ever seen, but that's a function of size. It kind of is like wearing a wall clock on your wrist almost, look, I've put it on and, strictly speaking, I think this is too big for me, right? This is absolutely pushing the limits for my 17 centimeter wrist size here. Graham, my friend who's got much bigger wrists, I think at least 2 centimeters more wrist than me, carries it easily. I think if you had bigger arms, you certainly can carry this. I think for someone like me, this is strictly speaking probably too big. It's a solid, overbuilt, serious diver with superlative function. I mean, that loom is just superb in the dark, and of course 600 meters. The highest rated diver I've had in the channel. I don't think I've had any watch that has quite approached this range. It's got the Omega quality and craftsmanship in a watch that is, despite the fact that it's large, you can feel it coming through, in the finishing, in the fit. It is as I expect and as I've found from Omega. So far in my experiences. I think it's great for those with bigger wrists wanting a substantial, reliable piece from the house of Omega. Right, what's not good? Well, again, it's related to the size. It is like wearing a clock. It is large. It is 200 grams adjusted. Now, you may have noticed I've taken out all the links I possibly can, and it is still 200 grams. If you add in all the links, if you needed all that, it's going to be, even heavier. The links do, despite the fact that it's already quite large at 51.5 lug to lug, those links actually add a bit more dimension. You can see, the way it curves and then that centerpiece sticking out, that adds probably another 5 millimeters on the wrist there. So sitting on top of the wrist, that does add a bit of proudness to the wrist. So that's something to take in mind. Of course, you can take off the metal bracelet and add a NATO, and it does very well on NATOs or other third-party straps as well, as if you wish to go that way. The size, of course, limits its versatility. I think wearing this in the office, it does look a little bit too much watch for me. I think if it were larger, it would be okay, but you know, there is some limitation in versatility because of its sheer size. Right, comparing this quickly to the newer version. So say you take the current black version starting with 215/3044 as the model number, right? What's the difference with the current models? Well, it is 43.5 on the current version. You can only get 45.5 in a chronograph version, as far as I understand. The new versions have a ceramic bezel with liquid metal for the lettering, so you know that enhanced legibility that they've done with liquid metal. And then the big thing with the newer versions, apart from I guess other facelifts on the watch and the dial there, is of course the caliber 8900. That is an in-house caliber, anti-magnetic movement with a free-sprung balance, as well as serial barrels to add a 60-hour power reserve. So that, you know, I think objectively, no question, the newer caliber 18900 in the Seamaster Planet Oceans are a superior movement. So guys, that's my review of this remarkable, substantial watch, the Omega Seamaster Planet Ocean 600M. Let me know what you think if you've had experiences with Seamasters and Planet Oceans in particular. I'm very interested to hear your thoughts. Guys, if you enjoyed this video, please give us a like. Consider subscribing. I'm putting out content every week, always aiming to be objective and unbiased about all things horology. I'm learning new things all the time, and I feature it right here on the channel. Thank you again for watching, and as always, I will catch you guys next time.